It is Thursday, February 29th, and the Splash Zone is back in your life. Happy Leap Year Day, everybody. I am Matt Modi, and I'm here to give you my 3 favorite NBA player props for tonight's NBA betting slate. We had been riding red hot with these NBA player props. Unfortunately, that came to an end yesterday. It wasn't a horrible day by any means. I gave out another 3 picks. Unfortunately, I only got 1 of those 3 to cash. Thank you to Tyrese Halliburton. Darius Garland went into double overtime, couldn't get to 7 assists. And then Kawhi Leonard, I had him over 26.5 points. He scored exactly 26. I know there were some people that took the over 25.5 instead. So you were able to cash out that Kawhi Leonard play. I obviously am only going to track what I officially put out. And because I officially put out 26.5, that unfortunately has to come down to an L. I also did not cash my ladder play as well, as I laddered Kawhi Leonard up to 30 points. So on main plays, we went 1 and 2, down a little bit less than a unit. And then on ladder plays, we went 0 and 1, down about half a unit. Not terrible by any means, but obviously never fun to have a day in the red. Hopefully we can make it back today. Luckily, we had been riding red hot leading into yesterday. We had 4 straight profitable days and 5 of 6 straight profitable days heading into yesterday. So it's only natural to have a minor down day, but it's never fun to have a day in the red. Let's hope we can make it back today. Luckily, the entire season has been incredibly profitable for us. On our mainline plays, we are up 55.79 units, which is amazing. And then on our ladder plays, which I just started tracking on February 24th, we're up 1.58 units. So let's hope we can have a better day today. I would recommend, if you're not already, if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hey, if yesterday was your first video, congratulations. You got the red day out of the way. Now let's hope we go on another heater. And then for this specific video, if you could comment, all that stuff does help me out a ton. One thing I want to preface real quick is a lot of the slate today was pretty gross. There were a couple guys that I did want to target, but unfortunately there were no odds out for them yet. So I do have a couple honorable mentions. What I would recommend is following me on Twitter, because I will post plays over the course of the day as injury news shakes out and more odds get posted. So definitely recommend following me on Twitter. You see my handle here at Jedi Modi. I also have a dub club where I send out picks as well. I'll go into more detail on that at the end of the video, but it's only $5 a month. So another way for you to get my picks. But again, more details on that. That's that. Let's get into today's picks. Ready to get wet. The first play that we're going to go ahead and lock in here. This is in the Jazz versus Magic game, and I'm taking Jalen Suggs over 1.5 made 3-pointers, -130 odds at FanDuel. Now, I normally don't love betting anything at -130, but the reality is this is a really good play. And because of how bored the bear was, I had to kind of just make some concessions. So playing something at -130 is steeper than I normally want to do, but I really do like the play. So I'm going to go with it. And this is something that I'm going to go ahead and ladder as well. So I'm going to take him to make 3+ 3-pointers as well. This is at +270 odds at FanDuel. And I'm putting a half unit on that bad boy. But there are a couple reasons why I like this play, which we can get into. So the Magic, they don't have a ton of shooting. They have a decent amount. I mean, they're really good defensively. They do have some good offensive players, but they just don't have any shooting. Suggs, I'm not going to sit here and say that he is a plus shooter or anything like that, but he has turned himself into at least a decent shooter, and he attempts the most 3-pointers on the Magic. On the entire season, he's averaging 5.2 3-point attempts per game. That leads the Magic. And in the month of February specifically, that number creeps slightly up to 5.4 attempts. So he's attempting a little bit more recently, and he's been playing well. So the 2 made 3-pointers that we are as our official play, he's cashed that in 6 of his last 10 games. 7 of his last 10 games, including 5 of his last 7 as well. And in that same stretch, that same 10-game stretch, he's made at least 3 3-pointers in 4 of those games as well. So he's only had 2 times in which he made only 2 and didn't make more than 2. And this matchup against the Jazz, this is about as juicy as it gets when you look at where Jalen Suggs shoots from and where the Jazz give up a lot of 3-pointers. So on the entire season, props.cash lists the Jazz as the second best matchup in the NBA when it comes to shooting guard 3-point props. Okay, when you see that, you have to dig into why, because there are different types of shooters, right? Just because they give up a lot of 3-point attempts to shooting guards, you have to see where do they give them up. In the Jazz specifically, and I did mention this in a previous video, I believe on Tuesday maybe, the Jazz allow a ton of above the break 3-pointers. That is what their defense is worst at. 3-pointers above the break. All that means is it's not a corner 3. and it's not a heave in the backcourt. It's above the break. And the Jazz, on the entire season, are giving up the most made above the break three-pointers in the NBA at 10.7 made. And that number has only gone up recently. Over the past month, you look in the month of February, they've allowed 13 made above the break three-pointers. That still leads the NBA. And that's exactly where Jalen Suggs takes the majority of his three-point attempts. Like 90% of his three-point attempts for the Magic come from above the break. In the month of February, he leads the Magic both in above the break made three-pointers and shooting percentage as well. He's making about 42% of his above the break three-point attempts. And in the past 10 games, he's played two other defenses that were top 10 in terms of allowing above the break made three-pointers. That was the Spurs in the Bulls, and he made 3 three-pointers in both of those games. So if he does that, he will cash our official play and he'll cash our ladder play as well. Let's hope that does come through for us as our first play. Next up, Thunder versus Spurs game. I'm taking Victor Wembanyama over 10.5 rebounds. This is at minus 125 odds at Bet365. So another play that's a little bit steeper than I would prefer, but you can only do what you have available to you. And this is another play that I really do like. So I'm not going to sit here and say if I have a bad day, oh, I just didn't like the board. No, the 3 plays that I give out and every play that I give out, I really do like. I'm not just giving out picks just to give them out. So for this one, as good as the Thunder are, and yeah, they're very, very good. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in the entire NBA. They get about the 3rd fewest rebound chances overall. They're the 4th worst defensive rebounding team in terms of what percent of defensive rebound chances do they collect. And they're an even worse offensive rebounding team, getting literally the fewest offensive rebound chances, percent of their offensive rebound chances in the entire NBA. Which that makes sense, right? Look at their roster construction. Chet's an awesome player. He's a little bit slight, and they don't have a backup center. So with that thought in mind, the Thunder are giving up the 3rd most rebounds in the NBA, specifically to centers. And over the past month, that's getting even worse as over the past month. So in the month of February, they're allowing the 2nd most rebounds specifically to centers in the NBA as well. Last game, Wemby cashed this against a very good rebounding team in the Minnesota Timberwolves when he had 13. But prior to that, he was in a little bit of a slump. He had missed it in 3 of his previous 4 games. So I do think we're getting a little bit of a discount here. Even getting it at 10.5, we've seen in the past his rebound number be at 11.5. Wemby has played the Thunder twice this year. He's cashed this over in both of those games with 14 and 12 rebounds in both of those games. And in both of those games, he only played 28 minutes roughly in each game due to that being a blowout. Now, there's always a chance that the Thunder blow out the Spurs again tonight, of course, but in his last 5 games, he's averaging over 30 minutes per game. So, A, he's shown that he can cash in limited playing time, and we also have the potential that this game stays relatively close and he plays closer to 31, 32 minutes as opposed to 28 minutes, which just gives him an even higher ceiling, higher potential to collect a bunch of rebounds. I'm not laddering it any above this. I'm just taking the over 10.5, but another play that I do really, really like. Next up, our 3rd and final pick of the evening, Hawks versus Nets. I'm taking DeJounte Murray over 14.5 rebounds plus assists. So I'm also going to ladder him to 10 plus assists specifically. That's at plus 200 odds at Bet365, and I put a half unit on that. I will admit I was initially just going to be on his assists, but the more research that I did, I decided to pivot, adding in rebounds, because I do think that adding in rebounds is a little bit safer. So he's been phenomenal from an assist department recently, but this matchup against the Nets is actually better for his rebounds. And I'll get into all that. But before we get into all that, just want to talk about DeJounte Murray in general. So he's now played 7 games this year without Trae Young. He's gone over this number in 4 of those 7 games. So yeah, it's a small sample size, but still hitting it over half the time for a number that we're getting for plus 106. And in 2 of the games he missed, he had exactly 14, which, yeah, that's still an under. That's a brutal under getting hooked. And in the 3rd game that he missed, he had exactly 13. So the floor that we can expect him to get is essentially 14. And he also has the ceiling potential as well with how well he's been doing from an assist department and this matchup against the Nets for rebounds. Looking at his assists specifically, that's a number that he's been crushing. So his main line assists for this one is 8.5. And the reason why I like laddering him to 10 plus is just how good he's been getting assists. So again, his main line is 8.5. And in the 7-game sample size without Trae Young this year, he's cashed 10 or more assists in 4 of 7 games. We're betting that at plus 200. And he's had another game with 9 assists. So he's gone over the 8.5 in 5 of 7 games. And in the 2 games he went under, he had 18 in 20 potential assists. In this matchup, he's going to play another 37, 38, 39 minutes. He's going to have the highest usage rate on the team by far. So I see no reason why he shouldn't have another 18, 20 potential assists. So as long as the Hawks don't go ice cold, which is what happened in the 2 games that he went under, he should be able to get to 10 plus assists. It's also a really good matchup for his rebounding as well. And if you just look at what's the better matchup, his assists or his rebounds, the rebounds is actually the better matchup specifically for the Nets are the better matchup specifically for the rebounds. The reason why, the Nets are one of the highest, most frequent jump shot shooting teams in the NBA. And that's where guards collect the most of the rebounds are from jump shots. Mid-range, above the break, corner, pull up, all that stuff. If it's not around the basket in the restricted area, that leads to just the ball bouncing farther off the rim, which means that guards are able to collect more rebounds against jump shooting teams. So with that thought in mind, the Nets are giving up the 3rd most rebounds per game to someone of DeJounte's rebounding style. And in the past 4 games, he's been phenomenal from a rebounding perspective. He wasn't as good in the first 3 games that Trey missed. In the last 3, he's been awesome. In his last 3 games, he has in 3 of his last 4 games, he has 10, 7, and 9 rebounds. Last game, he only had 4, but that wasn't a great rebounding matchup for him. It was a great assist matchup, and he had 11. So combining the 2, I think he'll be able to get to 15, rounding out our 3rd and final pick of the evening. And that's all we got. So 3 picks for you guys to tail. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But then the Dub Club that I talked about earlier, I do have one. It's only $5 a month. The logic with the Dub Club is you can get my plays immediately texted to you as soon as I decide what they are. So if you don't want to wait until the odds change, or you just don't feel like watching the YouTube video at all, that's why I have the Dub Club option. Again, it's only $5 a month. As soon as I decide what the plays are, I send them out on Dub Club, so you get them about an hour or so early. So an opportunity to lock them in before the lines change. And if you don't care about the analysis, no reason for you to go to YouTube. That's kind of the reason why I even have the Dub Club in general. I will say there's nothing on the Dub Club that you can't get for free, either on YouTube or on Twitter. So I'm not here trying to sell you just some sort of VIP picks package. It's just a little bit more convenient, and it's only $5 a month. But if you'd rather just get everything for free, totally fine with me. And that's all we got. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.